Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you very much to be with us this Thursday evening. My name is Motaun Tapeno, and I'm entrusted as the facilitator for all online entrepreneurial survival summit sessions that from the beginning until now. So remember, this is brought to you by Mind Think Institute, which is a transformational educational organization that is based in the Free State, with focusing on personal and business leadership teachings. So this marks our 22nd episode of the Online Entrepreneurial Survival Summit. Hey, time flies when you start to becoming productive. Yesterday, it was the first episode. Now we are like on the 22nd episode. But however, the business of the day, I guess everyone from our first episode to now, everyone has been speaking about business. However, there is other types of businesses that our Company Act allows us to form or possibly to establish. One of them, which is the so-called NPO or NGOs and NPC. At such a difficult time, most of people, we saw them running and wanting to establish such an organizations. But the main question remains, how could we leverage such an organization, especially at such a difficult time? So today's speaker, I feel that is going to do justice to this. He's my mentor, he's my brother, he's a friend, he's a father, and look, he's everything that you're looking for at that time. I have so much respect for the gentleman that is our guest speaker today. Ladies and gentlemen, please, I hope that you have your pen and you have your papers, because it's about to fly. Ntate, Nyofane le kae ntate wa kahle?
Ngwana mme le kae na?
Re teng ngwana thari e ntsho. Moapaka kobo. Motho wa o tsamaya hodima di-ice dithabeng tsa Qwaqwa.
Ntate o nhopotsa hae Qwaqwa thaba di mahlo thaba di mohudi ngwana mme.
No, without wasting any time, say thank you very much for allowing to be with us today, allowing and responding and believing in the vision that we have as Mind Think Institute about the summit. So without wasting any time, your audience is waiting for you. Your people are ready for you. What have you prepared for us?
As you have said in the beginning, there are different types of entrepreneurship or different types of enterprises. And as you have said, it's so mouthful when you said that from the beginning of the summit, we've been hearing quite a lot of how do we move our businesses into the next level and how do we navigate the storm of COVID-19. And when you asked me to come and speak about social enterprise, you remember when I said, man, I run a social enterprise, and you want me to speak in the summit of entrepreneurs. But through our discussion, we discovered that there are some elements we could learn from using social enterprise context, more especially during this pandemic crisis that is kind of like forcing us to do things different. It's forcing us to practice business in a different context. So yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You can go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think, am I projected? Because I have a projector. Did you give me hosting right?
Yes, sir, I did.
Can everybody see my presentation?
Yes, already is visible, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and privilege for me to be here this evening. As Mr. Tapelo has introduced me, my name is Molefi Nyofane. I've been in the space of social entrepreneurship for the past 10 years. It's a very interesting journey that I embarked on, because one of the things that happens in South Africa is that we don't have a correct legislation for social enterprises. So most of the time when we practice what we call social enterprise, some people mistaken us as NGO funders or NGO executive directors. So I am hoping tonight one of the things that I'm going to do justice on is to try to explain to you what is social enterprise and help you to understand how most innovators, because I love studying innovators. That's why the topic was a catalyst for creativity and innovation. I love studying innovators. One of the things I discovered about innovators, most richest businessmen in the world are innovators. And another thing that I also discovered is that most businessmen, richest businessmen, are generous. Basically, they did not start their business pursuing profit. They normally start their business to solving a particular need. So without waste of time, let me just a little bit tell you about social enterprise. And I'm hoping that with some case studies that I'm going to share with you, you would find an inspiration to become creative and innovative during these times of crisis, COVID-19. I normally call it, did it move? I don't see it moving. My slide is not moving that day. All right, is it moving? Yes, thank you.
Yes, it's moving, sir.
All right, when people ask me what is the definition of social enterprise, I normally abbreviate it as PMS. A social enterprise is an organization or a company, a firm established with its objectives being purpose, with its purpose being socially driven first. And the second component of social enterprise is that it's a firm that maximizes profits. But as it maximizes profits, society also benefits. One of the guys once said that the purpose of doing business is to create value for its owners. But with social enterprise, the purpose of doing business, a business exists to create what we call shared value. Meaning that as much as we create, we develop or create value, this value is shared among co-owners of the enterprise and also give back to the society. So normally you would find that as much as social entrepreneurs are profitable in nature, they earn their own shareholding, but also they reinvest their profits in social programs. So I'm going to share with you these 3 principles looking at some of the interesting case studies. Let me look at this. I want us to start with socially driven purpose, meaning that your intention of starting a business is not really to make profit. Mr. Tapelo always said throughout this summit, he said most businesses were established for nice times, meaning that most businesses were established for profit. You know, when you have a product and you sell it in the market and you get value in terms of money, then the business is doing well. But no one ever thought that in 2020, we would actually encounter something called COVID-19. COVID-19 that brought a conundrum that makes our customers to be locked down. Meaning that if our business was really relying on customers coming to our business, the business has died. Or business is going to go, like it's sinking. So one of the aspects, one of the greatest advantage of going into business, socially driven purpose, with a socially driven purpose, is this. I want to share with you the story of this gentleman. His name is Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg is described today as one of the top 100 billionaires in the world. You describe him maybe as a businessman, but this man is an innovator with socially driven purpose. Let me give you a little bit of his story. I think you might know it. I just want to contextualize it. In 2004, February on the 4th, Mark Zuckerberg, sitting in his res at Harvard University, he decided that he wants himself and his fellow students to connect online, just share fun and fun stories, and or maybe connect with the families at home, because normally when you are at university, you leave your family and go to stay on campus. That was the initial purpose. He never intended to go on Facebook for business. And after he launched this website, which was called Face Mask as a start, all he wanted was that let's meet together and rejoice. The next day, he had over 1,000 subscribers. The next day, which is on the 5th of February 2004, he had over 1,000 subscribers. And that was just a beginning. Now Facebook does not only have over 4 billion subscribers, but is actually being used as a social driving force for communication, for finding missing people, for even building the brands of business across the world. The man had an idea to connect himself with his friends, nothing more, nothing less, and that was turned into a multi-billion enterprise. Today, Facebook makes a lot of money. Today, we meet over Facebook, we create groups, and even our companies and products that we sell have a presence on Facebook. The man just had a social, he was just driven by a purpose of connecting friends. And connecting friends gave him what he called an enterprise that is a multi-million enterprise today. The second thing about social enterprise is that we maximize profits for societal benefits. So basically, when we say we maximize profit for societal benefits, we run like a normal enterprise. The difference between a social enterprise and NGO is that NGO purely relies on funding, but social enterprise applies commercially based techniques and methods to create profit, but that profit is maximized for societal benefit. As I explained to you, I run a non-profit organization. I used to run a non-profit organization, let me say that, because Macro Informative started as a small project in a community of Twatwa. After matriculating, I went to university, but my story is quite interesting. I did very well in matric, and I wanted to study law. So doing very well, I got distinctions. I remember in some subjects, I got 100%. But I want to tell you something. I did not do well in English. And English as a subject was a requirement for me to get into law school. I went, and not knowing where to go, what to do, because you see, one of the biggest challenges with rural communities is that access to information is very poor. We have access to libraries, but libraries have old materials. Access to internet is still a huge problem as well. So we might actually be living in a community, getting everything, but access to the world is quite limited when you are from a rural community. I met a shock of my life in 2006 when I went to university. For the first time in my life, I discovered that university does not have a principal. University actually has a vice chancellor. University actually have faculties that are headed by deans. When I got there, I got a shock. I thought I'm going to just give a report to a principal at university and he will admit me into a law school. Well, a long story short is that I could not manage to do my law degree. When I got into university, I'm from a school called Kholatudo, where Adaptability actually studied as well. 95% of us passed matric that year. 95% of us passed matric. But I was so surprised. I eventually went to study political science as a first degree. I was so surprised to discover that only 2 people I know from my community at the university with 33,000 students. I was so surprised. And I became so much inquisitive to ask people, where are you from? Where are you from? I discovered that in my community, a lot of young people do well in matric, but they don't access higher education opportunities. And that was a need. That was a need. On my third year of my first degree, I went back. I started a community project. So this community project was geared to expose young people to information of different careers. I mean, I discovered that there are over 300 careers that you could choose from. When we are home, all we want to do is, I mean, we mimic what we see. When I grow up, I want to be a teacher. When I grow up, I want to be a security guard. I want to be a policeman. I didn't even know there are things like actuarial science. I didn't know there are things like I can study entrepreneurship as a construct. I can study it as a discipline. I didn't know that. Well, after discovering that there's a need for this, Macro Informative, which was actually registered as an NGO in 2011, started recruiting young people for university. We went from taking just a couple of few, I think the first project took 70 of them. We went to taking from 70 up to 10,000 of them over the period of 7 to 8 years. And we have a lot of success stories. So during this time of looking at the need and reaching out to meet it, I needed money. I needed money to host career conferences. I needed money to actually transport these young people. I also discovered that when they get to university like myself, they don't have funding. I needed money to fund them. That's where the social enterprise aspect kicked in. Because I went knocking door to door in government, I went to knock in private sector, and I discovered that it might take long for me to actually help the people that I need to help every year. So one of the things that we came up with was we started developing apps. We started moving from high school beneficiaries to going to primary schools. We started finding out that what can we do to actually bridge a digital divide from as early as grade R, grade 1. We started introducing the digital literacy classes in high school, in primary schools, in communities. But one of the greatest things we did during that time is we started inventing, you see, by identifying a need that people don't have access to digital literacy. People don't have access to internet, and internet can make their life much better. Imagine learning physical science being taught by a teacher and also at the same time learning it from internet. That would make a huge impact to your understanding of a subject matter. So we started developing apps in Vernac. We started developing apps like teaching mathematics in vernacular. We started developing programs that actually assist, because one of the things that are happening in rural communities that a lot of people don't understand, we learn some of the subject in our own language. I want to repeat that again. I learned biology in Sesotho. I learned geography in Sesotho. I remember one time I was speaking in a conference in the United States when I was telling them about these realities about rural area, saying that I learned English in Sesotho. They just couldn't understand, how do you learn another language using another? They just couldn't understand. But you see, the very same problem of me not understanding how to speak English well, how to write it well, is the very same problem that prohibited me or prevented me to go into law school. I just couldn't let it to happen to my fellow brothers and sisters. So what started happening is, we started becoming profitable. We started selling these apps into primary schools. We started selling these apps with Department of Education. And as we maximized profits, society benefited. Then we found out that when young people are moving from primary school to high school, digitally literate, they are able to infuse the instructional classes that they are taught by teachers with internet. They are able to go and find out, how do I solve this particular problem using this method, and who are other experts. You see, so it happened that when we maximized profit and we started understanding the need in the society quite well, then society also benefited. But that was just a story of macro informative. One of the things that we then did, we started working with local innovators. I started helping young people with wonderful ideas to get funding and exposure in the market. I remember one of the young person that we assisted was a gentleman from my community in Clubview who actually manufactured a solar cell phone pouch. This cell phone pouch is actually, when you use it, it's a cell phone cover, but when you expose it to the sunlight, it actually charges your phone. A brilliant idea, which I think Vodacom incubated it. But I want to share with you another story of a lady that I mentored personally, who maximized profit for societal benefit. Her name is Tato. Tato is one of the success stories that I always talk about everywhere I go. I met Tato, she was about 18 years old. When I met Tato, Tato just, all she ever wanted was to help children to have a dignity of education from a community. And all she ever wanted, all she was talking about was that there's no electricity at home. So these young people can't study at night. And they walk over 30 kilometers to 40 kilometers without actually being recognized. Some of them have to wake up at 4. Then Tato, through that need, through identifying that need, she invented a school bag, which actually was made from recycled material. This school bag has a reflector that can make a child to be recognized while she's walking or he's walking at night, but it also has a solar mechanism in it that actually, as the child walks, it actually accumulates energy from the sun. And at night, this child can be able to use this school bag as a light to do the homework. An amazing story. I want to show you the next slide. This is how the school bags actually look. She actually did these school bags from a recycled waste. This was in 2015, ladies and gentlemen. And Tato automatically, all she said, I loved one of the things when she was interviewed by a World Economic Forum. She said something like, I never wanted to be in business. All I wanted was to make a difference. Then subsequently, I had to start a business from making a difference. Imagine if your ideas of making a difference or of your ideas of going into business is to make a difference in society. Tato started in 2016 with an aim of manufacturing about 10,000 bags to be distributed in South Africa. But through exposure of this magnificent innovation, she actually started close to 4 plants in Africa. And her company is called Reataka, something like that. It actually now produces over 50,000 school bags distributed in different countries in Africa. She's now about 26 years old. By just identifying a need, she described herself as a social entrepreneur, but by just identifying a need, she has maximized profit, and as she maximized profit, her profit actually benefited the society. It brings me to the third principle of social enterprise called shared value. An interesting, a mentor of mine, the guy that I follow in things of business, his name is Vusi Tembegwayo. Vusi Tembegwayo is a speaker, and he's also an incubator, like one of the initiators of Dragon's Den. He actually initiated a venture capitalist company called My Growth Fund 2-3 years ago. My Growth Fund exists for entrepreneurs. I love how he actually described why the business is doing business, why his business is doing business. He says, I exist for entrepreneurs. I'm on the verge of inspiring next generational leaders and inspiring Black entrepreneurs who will thrive in any sector without a limit of funding. Vusi through my crowdfund solved a problem that is one of the biggest challenges of SMMEs in South Africa. SMMEs hold a hope for employment. SMMEs are actually used as a catalyst or a venture that create employment in South Africa. But one of the biggest challenges of SMMEs is access to funding. So one of the things that my growth fund does, he actually does say that we exist to fund multi-million ideas. So all you do, you come and pitch your idea and you tell him how you plan to scale this business within 3 years to become a $10 million, I mean to say a 10 million rand revenue business in 3 years. And if you convince him that you're going to have a revenue up to 10 million in 3 years, he actually funds you. But how does he benefit from this business himself? The purpose of the business was to fund entrepreneurs. But then all he does is to have a certain percentage in your business. As your business grows and make money, he also grows and make money. I think this is a way of doing business going forward. When we look at the COVID-19, if our businesses only existed to provide products and services to customers without creating value to them, chances of us surviving after COVID-19 are very minimal. One of the things that I think I learned from these case studies that I shared with you, from Mark Zuckerberg to Tato, and also how we moved from being an NGO or running a local project to becoming a social enterprise, is that if we identify a need and do whatever we can to meet it, we become entrepreneurs. One of the things that we do in Macro Informative Youth Agency, we, through our experience and through our determination and obsession of making a difference. I went to United States in 2017, and I learned about the concept of creating an ecosystem, an innovation model that is ecosystem based, meaning that creating a platform for young people to come and test their ideas. They come up with any idea that solves a societal problem, and we help them by refining the idea. After refining the idea, we actually do a prototype of that idea. So when I came back, I started investigating this concept of building innovation hubs in rural communities. People didn't really understand what I was trying to do. Most people would say innovation hubs works in urban areas. Innovation hubs will not thrive in rural communities because there's no market for it. But through the grace of God and knocking on relevant doors and refining our concept and value proposition, we actually bid to a science and technology program that established rural community innovation hubs. And Macro Informative will be the first organization in the Free State to establish an innovation hub that looks into producing local innovators in mass. We are looking at producing local innovators in hundreds of them. We are looking into looking at challenge in a different way. I mean, in my rural community right now, like most other communities in South Africa, we have a problem of electricity. We have a problem of water. And right now, as I am telling you, we are working with young innovators. We are working with young people from the community who say, I have an idea of how can we solve the problem of water. I have an idea of how can we solve the problem of electricity. This is a social enterprise. And you're going to ask yourself, then how are we going to create value out of this? It goes back to what I was telling you about the shared value. As these young people find ideas, and we work together. We work together to refine them and test them in the market. And we are actually going to be one of the subsidiary funders. We are going to fund these ideas and create markets for them to go and be exposed, for selling. So one of the things that we would be doing is that all we're going to do is, from the idea of creating an ecosystem, as they succeed, we succeed. As they create more value that benefit the society, we also succeed. It is the same story of Facebook. Look at how we use Facebook today. Look at how Facebook has become fundamental. Even other companies want to get a paid access to Facebook so that they can advertise and market their product from it. So as the society succeed, the business also succeed. Perhaps this is how we need to look into creativity and innovation going forward. What if you look into creating a product or a service from your business that actually is meeting a need in the society, rather than creating a business or creating a service or product that is actually exploited, that is only for a profit? Because COVID-19 has proven to us that if we are profit-driven, our business will just succeed for a time. But if we are purpose-driven, our purpose thrive even in the midst of the storm. There is a concept I want to introduce, and I think I will leave you with this concept. There's a Japanese concept called ikigai. This word ikigai means a reason for being. So I have spoken about how you could actually identify a need in your society or in your surrounding and reach out to meet it, therefore create an enterprise out of it. But the question is, I have studied a lot of innovators, and I realize most of them, when you ask them, what made you succeed? They always say the first thing. No one says something like, I went and I did this. No one, they say, find your passion. Every single one of them, you speak, you listen to Warren Buffett interview, you listen to Bill Gates, you listen to Mark Zuckerberg, you listen to different innovators and billionaires in the world. They all say invention or success starts with finding your passion. So this concept I'm going to show you right now helps you to find your passion and also also make an enterprise out of your passion. Here is a concept. I said to you, it's called ikigai. Japanese believe that if you find what you are good at and what you love, you have found your passion. Every time you combine what you're good at and what you love, you have found your passion. I want to tell you about me. I've always been passionate about helping people. I've always wanted to make a difference in life. The reason I wanted to do law, it was not for me to be any kind of a law. I actually wanted to represent young people in juvenile prisons. That was one of my reasons why I wanted to pursue law. It has always been to make a difference. And what do I love? I studied information. One of my degree after political science was information management. I studied information. I understand how the power of having an informed mind. I understand that if you are informed, you can do better. There's a quote that says, when we know, we do better. So with my passion and what I love, I found a passion. A passion was to make a difference in young people's life in the community. So ikigai say, after finding what you love and what the world need, you see, it's taking us back to the world need. You would have found your mission in life. Combining what you love, which is your passion, and what the world need, will create for you a mission in life. An interesting one is what the world need and what you wish to be paid for would create for yourself a vocation. Someone once said something, I think it was Coach Ella earlier in the summit. She said that Michael Jackson go on stage, burn with his passion, and people pay to come and watch him burn. That's what she said. She says people pay to come watch him burn. And all he does is to do what he's good at, which is his passion. His passion is music. So he has found a vocation out of the world needed melodies. The world needed to relax, to hear nice music. And that was his passion. And that created from him what he can be paid for. Japanese Ikigai says that what you can be paid for and what you are good at create for you profession, therefore your enterprise. So if you want to know how to succeed and thrive in business, learn from what innovators are saying, learn from our case studies, find your passion, turn your passion into a mission, turn your mission into your vocation, and your vocation into your profession, and you will never run dry. Thank you.
Oh, find your Ikakai.
Yes, sir. It's called Ikigai.
Ikikai.
Yes,
Yo,
sir.
well, I wrote 2 sentences, then I could not write anymore. I agree with Ntatetawo when he says you opening old wounds. I remember when, look, I'm one of the people who benefited from your program because my first experience of Joburg was because of your campaign of taking Kwakwa students to Joburg to go enroll for tertiary. I was one of them. It was my first time being Joburg. It was my first time being at SABC. We made a lot of noise because it was our first time. And we were traveling with 3 full buses.
Yes, sir.
3 full buses. So I really respect that you have answered the call. You spoke about English. People always think that we're playing. When we say mathematics in Sesotho, you know, when I got to Durban and then I realized that everyone in Durban was speaking English. And like tone, pace, thorough pronouncing, Bona, on point. At that time, I only know Sotho and I can't speak English. It was a problem. Thank you very much for what you have done. My question, that is very crucial. Do you think with a constant evolution of looking for the right model of spreading the impact as a government, because before there used to be the sole proprietors, a form of having a business, they dealt away with it. There was CC that were tried, they dealt away with them because they believed that they were never delivering the value that they wanted. Now they introduce companies of which they are more self-enriching more than anything. Do you think the limited or the lack of capital to social enterprises limits the extent of the impact the social enterprises can have in our societies?
I think, you know what, as I really said, one of the biggest challenge we have in South Africa is that there is no legislature that is actually governing social enterprises. And when you look at countries like United States and UK, I mean, there are legislation that are governing social enterprise. But in general, like as SMMEs, one of the biggest challenge with SMMEs is funding. So, I mean, you could imagine for social enterprises, how difficult that would be. I want to tell you something, Mr. Tapelo. One of the biggest challenge we have in social enterprise space is that you might find that your initial purpose is to make a difference into young people, but you can't access funding that actually is directed to that particular program or that particular objective. So one of the things that a lot of young people do, or a lot of people who are in that space do, they tend to then change their purpose of existence. They tend now to change or amend the purpose of their existence to feed a funder. So as a result, you're no longer really pursuing your intended purpose of impacting young people's lives. You are now looking into providing shelter for old people, mainly because that was an available funding at that time. I'm not to say that providing shelter for old people is actually quite wrong, but all I'm saying is that that's one of the biggest challenges we have. That's why we encourage in Macro-Informative in running a social need or a social solution as a business, packaging it as a business and finding a way of distributing in a market in a profitable way.
Thank you very much, sir, for being honest. Look, one person once said to me, the problem is not the resources. The problem is the people who have problems in the positions that they are. Because sometimes I feel that people who are supposed to come up with policies that makes it easy for social enterprises to maximize its impact, they are not even considering. Look at it right now. We are in a COVID-19 right now, and the only thing that they could think of social enterprises was to give them food parcel to distribute. But for tech shop and all informal sectors, they had funds that they're going to make available. You look at one of the main funders in the social space, which is Lodo. They closed their applications. So now, meaning all social enterprises could not do anything besides just taking food parcel and taking it away. Is it the fact that even people that are supposed to be doing justice to us as social enterprises, that their mindset is still stuck on social enterprises, just about giving things away?
I think also that's why I started explaining that we need to understand that there's a difference between an NGO and a social enterprise. And why am I reiterating this is because in South Africa, and most of the countries in Africa that I know of, there isn't a concept. The concept of social enterprise is rare. A lot of social enterprises that are registered as a profit-making business. So that automatically makes it quite difficult for the industry or the sector of social enterprise to even have presence in South Africa. So when you look into the question of, do I think people who are in positions of power are not making right decision when coming to funding? You know, Abditapel, I want to tell you about issues with NGOs. Most NGOs, I mean, there are close to 4 million NGOs registered in South Africa. You know, and most NGOs are registering not because they want to meet a need in a society. They are registering out of desperation of unemployment. They are registering because they're sitting at home, there's nothing they can do, and they have this idea of distributing some food parcels or actually doing something like that. And as a result of that, there's a funding that is coming in the government that is going to fund that particular program. And then they actually register NGOs based on that particular mindset. And one of the things that we are trying to advocate for as Macro-Informative Youth Agency is that find a need first. Let's define a need and let's find ways, come up with multiple ways of solving this need. But one of the ways of solving this need has to bring the aspect of value, has to bring the aspect of profit. Because one of the things that we could never do or we could not do as NGOs is to rely totally on funders.
Because honestly, you look at people who come with good concepts, but they can't go any far because of funding. So let me go to your questions. People who have questions. And Tate Tabo Monyati is saying, Mr. Nyofane, you just rose old wounds by mentioning that most learners do well in matric and don't have resources to get to university. I found myself having forced gap. I found myself having a forced gap year. However, my passion made me to leave home to knock to high learning education. Wait. To higher learning education to short the story. The very same problem to access tertiary education post-matric. I salute you on your vision about Information Hub. Dikhabi is saying, thank you, say, feeling very inspired as a young social entrepreneur. And then Ndate Joseph, shoo, thank you, Coach Molefi. You taught me a new concept today. And I believe social enterprise is a much better way than NPOs. NPOs, or am I wrong, Coach?
It's much better. It's a way. It's a way to go. It's a way to go. And I think I want to first comment Abditabo. Abditabo is one of an inspiring story that I just want to briefly tell you that gap year, when he took that gap year, he actually worked in a construction company. He was actually literally digging ashapa, picking a fosholo. And that time he had distinctions, but today he's on his way on his way to get his PhD. It's one of the success stories and one of example that shows the problem of digital divide in rural communities.
Mm-hmm. All right, question abusing. Mpo, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your surname. It's a bit difficult. The question is, how do we force the shift to happen for NGOs to be sustainable and incorporate the element of social enterprise?
Well, that's a very good question. And I think it goes back to what I was explaining to you. I think a lot of teaching and awareness needs to happen in our country. You know, people need to be socialized towards the concept of social enterprise. People need to understand that we need to start looking at community problems as a business rather than just a problem. Because I remember Dr. Mark Monroe always would say, every problem is a business. You know, once we look into, I mean, like a story of Tato. Tato, all she ever wanted was to bring dignity to children in Northwest. That's all she ever wanted. But she would have maybe taken a stance of going to big companies like PERB, like Ackermans, to say, can you donate school bags or do something? But what she did, her passion for making a difference propelled her to invent, to come up with an innovation that can actually be sold in the market. So I think what needs to be done is that a lot of people who are starting NGOs need to be educated in how to look at the need. And need needs to proceed, needs to actually yield profit.
Nyofane.
Yes, sir.
Hey, title. Somewhere you find that within the same line, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm also a social entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Does the act of how you do business qualifies you for title?
No, sir. No, sir. If I understand, qualifies you to become an entrepreneur, you mean? Like that then, because of I'm running a business, I'm providing a particular product, so I'm a CEO of that business.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking? Is that what you're asking? I want to understand the question.
Okay. All right. There is, because I'm in a social space, you know,
okay.
I'm running a social enterprise. So,
okay,
or I'm running an NGO. Then I call myself a social entrepreneur. But yes. Now what happens if I have a PTY LTD that is making money and I also run an NGO? Meaning now I will have myself as an entrepreneur and also have myself as a social entrepreneur.
Well, you know, I found that the issue of titles, it's a matter of formality. And the titles are given to us by people. Or sometimes people give themselves titles, but they don't really make, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm talking about one of the guys I follow so much, Vusi Tembagwayo. Vusi Tembagwayo is sometimes called serial entrepreneur. Sometimes it's called a motivational speaker. Sometimes it's called #1 global business speaker. Sometimes it's called, when he started My Growth Fund, they gave him a description of a social entrepreneur. So I think a title is a matter of what you are doing at the moment. So if I appear in a business space where I am speaking about my business, like maybe my fleet management business, people might refer me as an entrepreneur. But if I talk about innovation hub that we're going to start in the Free State, people might regard me as a social entrepreneur. But for me, titles don't matter. There's a book that I once read by Robin Sharma who says, "A leader with no title." I don't think title is what we need to concentrate on. We need to make a difference and leave a long-lasting legacy in people's lives.
Wow, Charlie one that. And that they would teach Chavalala, who dumela mbundade. Dumela ntatwaka se. All right, okay, I saw this one. Or we are indeed learning. Thank you, sir. I would love you to advise, if that's the correct term that I should use, someone who's still running an NPO and feeling that it slow paces him because he can't get any financial benefit from it. But you find that the cost and the area of his focus is really needed in the community that he's in or she is in.
Mm-hmm. One person once said to me, "You can't do your homework forever. You can't do homework forever. At some point, you have to go and take a test." One of the things that limit us, more especially people who are socially driven, is that we want to look into a need for so many years or for so many months. I'm studying, there's a need for this, there's a need for this, there's a need for this. But you see, you can't just always forever studying it. At some point, you have to go out there and test if that need really exists and if what you are bringing as a value proposition or as an idea to solve it really, really works. So I would say to that person, don't do homework forever. At some point, you have to go out and test if your idea works. And one of the things that happens in the social space, as I said to you, my need was to expose young people to university, but the needed to be refined. I discovered that exposing them just to university would not really work. I need to start from basic education, from primary, to teach them digital literacy, to help them to understand what computer is. From there, they went to university, they passed, they graduated. Then I realized that they are sitting at home unemployed. We need to see how can we turn them into entrepreneurs. Then eventually, we decided that maybe we need to look into promoting local innovation and therefore creating entrepreneurs out of innovations.
Wow, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Pule Molefi, we indeed learning. I was when presenters, I'm not sure what he was trying to do, to say we indeed learning. I was, okay, when the presenter speaking about Ikika, can you please explain that again?
Okay. The concept of Ikigai is very interesting, and I would advise each and every person who's participating. I see a lot of people have joined us to go and just search it. It's very interesting. You know, Japanese think if you do what you love and what you are good at, you are rest assured to have a long, healthy life and live a purpose-driven life. So they came up with this concept to actually identify. It's actually an exercise. I just briefly mentioned it in this session, but when we conduct workshop, we actually are taking people step by step. Let's understand, what do you love? what do you love? What are you good at? And from what they love and what they are good at, we then find a way of identifying what may be. We are not really saying this is your passion, what may be your passion. And the matter of, as I was explaining here, that most entrepreneurs I know, most billionaires I know, most business people I know, the first advice they give, if you ask them how to succeed in life, they say find your passion. They say find your passion. So basically, this is one of the models out there that helps you to actually transform your passion into an enterprise. So I thought maybe projecting it once again would actually quite help you. It's a function of what you're good at, what you love, what the world needs, what you wish to be paid for. Done. What you're good at and what you love would become a mission, and the mission will meet a particular need in life. And as you are meeting that need, like we made a very clear example with what Mark Zuckerberg did. He just met a need of friends and families connecting online. And from meeting a need, he actually had to drop out of university and go run this because that's what he was being paid for.
Oh, one of the gentlemen that I really respect in the space once said, if you don't have a mentor, your impact will be limited to your audience.
Yeah.
But with a mentor, your impact could be generational.
Yes, sir.
So it's not every purpose that is guaranteed to have a profit. But sometimes our purpose should be about serving. Yes, thank you very much, sir, for serving
really
us.
Appreciated.
Thank you very much for taking the responsibility of making Kwakwa a better place with every effort, with every resources that you put aside from your family to enjoy out of your sweat equity, but to say this is for Banabat Kwakwa to have a better life in the future. I thank you very much.
I really appreciate it, sir.
Questions are popping. The room is on fire. Hey?
Let's take them,
Gavin.
sir. I think we still have time.
Okay. Gavin, the time spent for reconnaissance is seldom wasted. Indeed, we spend. All right. I think he rephrased as well. Indeed, we spend a lot of time making a research before action until we get a reason that might discourage us from doing what we initially wanted to do.
Okay. Okay. Are they done?
Yes, sir. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
I think Mr. Gavin was just reiterating the concept of saying that we cannot really do. We can't constantly be doing homework forever. We need to just come out of homework mode and go test. We have to go and take a test, you know.
Nyofane, how do I follow up with you? How do I get an update of what you're working on, considering that you spoke about the Innovation Hub? How do I be able to follow up with your work or be in contact with you? You mentioned that you do programs again on the leadership. So what can you offer entrepreneurs, especially at this critical time?
At this critical time, as we are actually quite cultured by your summit as well, we are on a series of providing. I'm going to be sharing some of the insight and interviewing a lot of amazing people online. We are actually planning that. We are actually planning that as an organization. But I'm also planning to incorporate some of local entrepreneurs, more especially in the Free State. If you're in here and you're in the Free State, I want you to be on a lookout for our first ever innovation hub ever been created in the Free State, because we are going to recruit young people with ideas. We're going to incubate them into our program and work with them for a period of 6 months. All we need is a viable idea that solves a community challenge. It shouldn't really have, you don't have to have a business plan or what, you just have to have a burning idea which could actually help us to solve any societal challenges. So we would be actually communicating via social media, and our website is meayouth.org. meayouth.org. We're going to actually be sharing some of information and how do you actually participate in our Innovation Hub. We are going to have our first cohort maybe around October this year. So we're going to distribute call for proposal, call for innovative ideas in the next coming month. Oh my goodness, I see the problem of electricity has just happened to us again in the Free State. Don't worry, Abditapelo, Innovation Hub is coming through the Living Lab. We are going to tackle a challenge of electricity. And from there we could build with young entrepreneurs. From there we could build enterprises that are sustainable.
We came on. We need to do that. It's a must. That is the calling that we cannot ignore. Look, we are the government.
Yes, sir. Oh my word. I think Mr. Tapelo just got disconnected. It's one of the problems we need to actually identify and solve. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, it cut off because of electricity. So
I think so, my good sir.
Yeah, so what I was trying to say is I think we become aware that the responsibility of making our hometowns, making our societies, making our community better lies on our shoulder. No one is going to do that. So in a hyper collaboration mode, we should be working together in trying to ensure that we deliver solutions, we scale up these solutions, and we monetize them. We should not just be impactful without monetizing our impacts, you know. So
that's so very true. That's actually a new way of doing a business in South Africa and elsewhere in the world, Mr. Tapelo. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity, and thank you very much, Abdi Tapelo, for this opportunity. I hope sharing that social enterprise perspective made some impact in people's lives.
I think so, say it did totally.
Yes, sir.
On behalf of Mindthink Institute family and on behalf of all the attendees that are here, by the knowledge and the wisdom that you have uttered to us today. I think for really it's something to consider, it's something to digest, and it's something that one can write home about, that social enterprise, it has a strong presence for holding the
oh God. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
I will load the file. I will load tomorrow, say. I don't think I'm going to be able to load tonight.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Thank you very much. Until we meet tomorrow again at 7 o'clock. Bye-bye.